joining me from Ontario, Toronto, the GTA, Shahbaaz Kara-Virani, founder and the familiar face of Kind Media and events, Kind Magazine, and obviously to a number of Canadian brands and international cannabis brands. Shahbaaz, the leader of cannabis cultural festivals in Canada, so to speak. And it's a pleasure to host you here tonight. Obviously, I ramble a little bit, man, and I'm going to turn it over to you to, no further ado, just please explain a little bit about your position in the industry and some of the fire events that you've been able to orchestrate as of late.
Yeah, man, for sure. Appreciate you, Jordan. Appreciate all you're doing. Appreciate Respect My Region, man. They're bringing fire content. Joey, Mitch, the team. Obviously they got you here in Canada. Dope stuff. I'm not the founder of Kind. Josh Nagel is. Okay. And I'm the managing director. So really just trying to, been with Kind for about a year. Really just trying to bring in some different processes, operational efficiencies, different types of things. Now the mastermind behind the Winter Fair is Nicole Wolf, who's our chief experience officer. I had a hand in it, and obviously, it's we all work together. But a year ago, Kind Winter Fair was just a dream that Josh Nagel and I had. I was working at Dutchy at the time. I had thrown the Lift & Co events. And, I love the magazine. The magazine focuses on lifestyle, travel and tourism, music and entertainment, health and wellness, and food and drink. And, Josh hired me on as a consultant last year to help him throw an event. We came up with the Winter Fair, and that ballooned into, a year later, the Winter Fair being a street food festival and a holiday market, which was outside. It sounds crazy because it was in Canada, but it was like 4 degrees. It was wonderful. It was so beautiful. Joy was in the air. Our team did an amazing job curating. We had both bud tenders and consumers there. Bud tenders were sampling at the same time consumers were walking around. So it was an evolution from our summer fair, which was more of like a carnival. So our summer fair we had a separate kind of bud tender event called Kind Gardens, which was about education and sampling. And then we had a carnival themed event, which is all around breaking down barriers to accessibility. And then we took those barriers to accessibility and we allowed the same individuals to come back, and we kind of wrap them in a street food festival and a holiday market, because we believe that evolution, changing mindsets, building advocacy, it takes time. It's not just going to happen overnight. So proud that some of the brands that we work with are really starting to see some ROI. The best word is ROI in the industry. But brands are starting to build communities and engage channels, and we saw that. Black Market had a 2-hour line outside of their booth. We had Proofly show up and kill it with so many of these bud tenders. We had Tweed making a big mark. It was super fun. And then Jordan, the night before, we also had the Kind Gala and People's Choice Awards, which was an executive event geared towards celebration, recognition, and deal making, built under the same vein of food and drink. So we had Chef Jordan Wagman, who well, and we had Chef Romain Avril curate that. So yeah, man, it's been a couple crazy weeks, but just happy we get to do this. Cannabis is legal in Canada.
That you've got me curious, because again, obviously, when you introduce the concept of this sounding crazy, because here we are and it is in Canada, and then a number of episodes throughout the Canadian Cannabis Podcast, again based off of national industry momentum or the Cannabis Act regulational review, everything kind of going on, but cannabis consumption spaces becoming a hot topic, absolutely, say, for the latter part of the 2022 North American Weed Tour. And then also even noticing that on the international side, on the American side, through Respect My Region's portion of podcasting and events attendance, where cannabis consumption zones or spaces obviously becoming a topic at some of these events they're attending as well, right? And I'm curious about the licensing. So is it, as you've steamrolled the industry, paving that or trailblazing, so to speak, and then building it up, like you said, you stepped up from summer to this winter. the opportunity and kind of building off of that momentum one to the other. But how is it in Ontario as far as the licensing goes? And I know that it's from province to province, it's going to vary. Obviously, Manitoba lagging, but is identifying wanting to jump into the consumption spaces, whereas Ontario, it's not uncommon, let's say, for brick and mortar from the beginning to have been built with that projection of the potential of consumption spaces coming in. So when it comes to the special licensing or anything like that, is it anything particular that you want to share that stands out as far as dealing, like for you with the OCS or is Health Canada? Is it really, I don't know, like, yeah, it can't be just that simple. So yeah, if you don't mind to shed some light with that, please.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I mean, it's not simple, but it is. I don't want to say it is kind of simple, but it's logical kind of thing. And so we didn't do a consumption lounge by any means. So let me kind of walk you through this. First and foremost, we'll peel back the layers, and it's like, there's two different things at play, three different buckets at play here. There's consumption, which is the act of consuming cannabis. There's sampling, which is the idea, the notion that you're going to trade a brand is going to allow a nominal amount of product into a bud tender's hand for education and research purposes. Cool. And then there's the idea of smoking, right? And so those three are like in this Venn. I should draw this out on a whiteboard. I'm looking at my whiteboard, envisioning it right now. But there's this like Venn diagram happening. And oftentimes those words can be confused to be synonymous with one another, but they're not. And so why that's important is because you look at sampling today in you can go into an LCBO, you can go into a Costco, right? Like you can sample to consumers, whereas like that's not easy. To get to that legislation from like a health and regulation perspective, like that's not easy. But with cannabis being so disincentivized and just such a need for like trade marketing and winning kind of hearts and minds, the Ontario government said that we're allowed to sample, but it was essentially like saying like, hey, you're allowed to play the game of soccer, but like there was no rules necessarily associated with it. They're like, there's a ball and a net and a field, but like figure out how to like play the game and then come to us and let's work together. We're really happy that we did. So we were able to work with the AGCO on crafting like sampling policy during the summer that then evolved into the winter. But the challenging thing is that we go back to that Venn diagram of smoking, consumption, sampling. So sampling is that act. Perfect. We can do that. Now it's like, well, consumption and smoking. So oftentimes a lot of people confuse consumption and smoking. Cannabis can be consumed in so many different ways. Right. But the biggest way right now is obviously smoking. And so Ontario has the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, which dictates and states that you can only have a place of smoking 9 meters away from like food and drink, essentially, right? So our very first consumption lounge, we realized that, hey, like, okay, like we got to put this 9 meters away. And so it was governed by Smoke-Free Ontario, and it was the Spinach Consumption Lounge. And it was primarily for, consuming of cannabis. But what we realized is that can kind of deter a lot of people, right, as well, because like smoking and consumption aren't the same thing. So, we had a consumption lounge, but we encouraged, like, it wasn't only for, necessarily smoking. We had multiple consumption lounges that were both 9 feet away because they had to be in case people were smoking. But the biggest thing is it's like, it wasn't a lounge. It was more so like an outdoor space, right? That was geared towards that. And simultaneously, just because a bud tender is getting a sample through our passport program doesn't necessarily mean they're consuming it. They still have to take that sample and go to the consumption lounge. So I know that's a little confusing, but it's not necessarily a lounge. But it's like I had a conversation with someone from the OCS the other day, high level, and it was, there's more of an appetite to do a special permit license of a consumption lounge than actual consumption lounges. Yeah. And so that's something that's really curious that I'm excited to explore a little bit, and obviously watch how consumption lounges launch in Nevada and roll out in Michigan, these types of things. Because real quick, I threw like a small executive mixer the other day with like 50 people, and I left the alcohol in the box by mistake, and it was on a patio, my patio at my building, and I had a bunch of cannabis drinks, and people consume the cannabis drinks no problem. There wasn't necessarily alcohol, so leads me to believe it's like consumption lounge from like a non-smoking perspective is really, really like a safe space to consume edibles, right? Like the wild ones that you have in your hand, things like that. So.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about this too. But I'm hearing of a number of very cool things in the progress and the success of throwing together the fairs. Obviously, relationship building being a number one in that tight-knit kind of community, but also sounds like as far as inspection goes, OGLC that you mentioned, so they're very much open-minded and participating as far as like pilot project, like you've kind of like navigating it for them in a way of seeing what works and what doesn't. Ultimately, similarly, so in Manitoba, well, they've slowly tried to introduce and prepare for next summer with festivals having, say, mobile dispensaries and that hand in hand, like time and time again over the events again here too, is at least there's harm reduction is paramount. I mean, it's not non-existent almost as far as having this type of environment in play, even with the sale or licensed sale of alcohol as well in the vicinity. So I mean, there's been some very pros outweighing the cons, I guess, when you look at it from an industry perspective from that way. So now again, so we brought up the wild, and I am consuming. So I found it very interesting because while your carnival, the winter fair was taking place recently on December 6th and 7th. My role with Respect My Region and the Canadian content portion of it, obviously looking at publications and then again the podcasting, but also switching to a bit of a different maneuver over the last few weeks, which we talked about at the beginning of our introduction here today. And that's slinging bricks, man. I'm doing some mason laborer work through the day is what I'll say is my side hustle. And then proving slowly to myself that there is still labor intensive work that, believe it or not, can wear you down enough where even the slightest bit of social media management from the device after is a little bit much. So yes, I am trying and I've been exploring. One, because I wrote a publication about some fire brands across Canada. And I know you're definitely familiar with a number of them for certain. And then it just out of coincidence, the award ceremonies that I'm hoping to hear a little bit about here, if you have a few minutes to share about how the awards worked out for you. But I did see on our LinkedIn feeds that Wild was in there, man. So this is the 5th and 6th flavor of packages that I've tried over the last basically about
how delicious are they? They kill it. They're amazing.
Marion Berry gummies. Real fruit indica. So last night I tried CBD. That's a big part of my learning curve right now. Nice. Tea break for me might not be no consumption, but like definitely less. And then flipping over to some of that CBD. But with the edibles being brought up and then the tricky navigating around the regulations as far as setting that up. Special licensing, definitely. I'm curious about it too, because I've learned a few things about it through the North American Weed Tour and a number of the awesome guests that have been on who are pulling off events similarly, right? Under that, where almost like not like a niche, but it definitely seems a lot more appealing to go through the work of bringing people together for a short term, as opposed to looking at establishing a brick and mortar restaurant, so to speak, where you're going to be wanting to have it full as often as possible. I can't disagree with that either. So how is the talking with Jordan, like bringing up Jordan Wagman for the carnival? So was it like full infused dinners for the gala and the award ceremony and like full on?
No. So and we were talking before this about like I just want to address like your labor comment, like, it's crazy. Like we get to be on a computer and create content and do all these different things. And like, 90% of the world still, has to build things with their hands. And like, we talked about Nicaragua and like building a school and things like that. So it's a real like gratifying, humbling perspective. And just so like a lot of gratitude for the fact that we get to sit here and do this right now, which is pretty cool. And I got mad respect for, the hustle and what you're doing. I love that you have a side hustle alongside this and a few of the other things that you're doing, especially at Uprise. But
yeah.
So, we didn't have an infused meal. We had, so 4 years ago, I shared this story on stage with Jordan, but like 4 years ago, I threw an infused dinner because I believe food and drink is, accessibility, point and a barrier breaker. And it was an infused dinner. It was a 1920s theme. It was in 2019, right? 2019, right? Wait, when was the pandemic? 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And Jordan came to that dinner. That's how we met. And so 4 years later, we threw a 1920s themed gala, 300 people. It was all executives. And one of the pieces of the pie was this, curated meal. And we used different, this is sense and purpose. So we made a cocktail, a drink, a non-alcoholic drink using, relax on the beach. It was called Senorita. We had a variety of different brands on display, and so Jordan curated the food and the drink there. And then during the 2 days of the fair, it was a street food festival, right? And so the idea and the notion behind that being that, again, food and drink is the key to accessibility. That rhymes, and so it's catchy. So just if no one remembers anything else, food and drink is the key to accessibility. But Jordan curated and the team curated all the companies who were there. From the street food festival perspective, we're all around and focused around emerging global markets. So we had, Thailand and, beautiful pad Thai and, different food from Thailand. We had Blondie's New York pizza, right? Because obviously New York's doing big things right now. I'm actually heading there tomorrow to throw the New York Cannabis Collective holiday party. Yeah. Anyone from New York, emerging leader, we're doing an awesome party on Wednesday, which is going to be cool. And so then we had schnitzel, and we had bratwurst from Germany, and we had all these different things. And it's really just about this plant has the ability to just open up minds. My mom came to the fair, which was cool. I often talk about how I'll know what's working when I've changed her mind. And she got interviewed by our editor-in-chief, Ben, and she stated that he asked her if legalization was a good idea, and she put this so eloquently. My beautiful 60-year-old Kenyan Indian mother said, yes, she believes legalization is the key because it allows you to consume cannabis less and in a more safe manner. And I'm like, that's kind of true, because what you're consuming, you're dosing, or more, but it's just, that's my mom, everybody. That's, she grew up with the stigma of stigmas. So it's just cool. And so that's what we're trying to do, break barriers. But ultimately what Kind does is really try and help tell a brand story, drive a brand's utility. Mitch, what's up, man? Give access to different channels, to connect different people, whether it's through storytelling, through cool experiential events. That's what we're all about, is because if they win, we win, and the industry grows, and Kind only wins if the industry grows, kind of thing. So that's our mission.
Very cool. And that's so you Kind Media and Events, Kind Fair. And according to our video description, our episode dialogue, you bring it back into that. So the brand building, or not was it? Sorry, of our brand. I'm getting baked off those wild gummies there right now. But so aside from the media marketing, though, so the brand building, and then the Kind magazine, and then that role of harnessing all of that cannabis culture. From the behind the scenes magic right to the forefront, and what everyone gets to see, patrons attending the final product. But if we talk a little bit about the importance of that role of the media coverage itself, and having that avenue, or as part of saying one of the arms of one of the octopus, right? I mean, that it's one of those things. It's the platform we're on through Respect My Region, music and weed, cannabis and music brand promotion, as well as and harnessing the culture for it. But obviously where we're looking at in 2023, and then you brought up Uprise, and working more a lot more closely with particular brands that that has been again a common discussion throughout many episodes, and some of the hindrance in appropriate brand marketing. And so wanting to level up and then move forward. Even a guest of ours that I've had on that talked that did try to launch like a magazine publication from Manitoba and the prairies that was cannabis specific, and very openly talked about some of the like the trials and tribulations. So I think it is absolutely important, while we have the time, if we could hear a little bit about that role and how it kind of ties everything really together,
Okay.
including the opportunity for someone like your mother even to comfortably speak with the publication. So yeah, dude, it's like a dream come true that way. Yeah.
Yo, I really appreciate the line of questioning, man. Honestly, it's really, really dope. I'm going to talk about this stuff often, so appreciate you. The role I joined Kind because transparently I started to understand the role that media could play during COVID, and I started to do some research into how industries are built and how much of a player media is in that, and it's such a player, right? I think the interesting thing about our industry is that like not a lot of people have been able to touch or successfully do media because of the various nuances and the challenges and the different regs and the different cultures, the localities, things vary, county to municipality to state to, country to, whatever the case is. And it's just like, it's so challenging, but media is such a powerful piece of the pie. And the thing is, it's like, now it's community driven media. I genuinely believe that it's like, you have the power to create your own channels and your own distribution, and like audience is everything. But I think a lot of people want to resonate and find a tribe now because there's so much nonsense in the world, and it's so hard to find, something to resonate with. Like, I mean, like, look, like not to get political or anything, but like there's crazy genocide shit happening all over the world. You look at Iran, my girlfriend's, from Iran, and they're just like, there's no, freedom of speech there right now. And so I think that, through this currency, kindness, so many things can happen. I believe in global languages. I'm a soccer player. Shout out Canada Beach Soccer. I'm learning Spanish. Like, there's different global language, food, drink, but like kindness is one that's missing and doesn't cost you anything when you give it. And so like that fundamentally has a power to be a voice. And I think that especially in cannabis, there's an opportunity to build a tribe. And the crazy thing is, I used to think, Jordan, that like everyone, would survive. I used to get hurt personally when like I'd see a company in cannabis go bankrupt or, die or make a bad move. And like, it used to really hurt. But I realized that like cannabis industry is not going to implode. There's going to be certain players, and it's our job to build with the right players that have the right shared values in an ethical and morally great way, because there's not a lot of that. Like that's a premium now, right? Mm-hmm. And so like as much as we want to work with organizations, we ruthlessly qualify the organizations that we work with too, because it's important for us to work with good people and then also mirror our ability to be good people. Like we make mistakes all the time, but like the thing that we'll always do is like we'll lean in and we'll crush it. And like we're always willing to like negotiate. We're always willing to like help friends. And like, we just believe in that ecosystem, that next type of ecosystem. And, the nice thing is like, then that comes back to like us telling stories through events, through, different things. And it's like, man, like some of the stories we got to tell last week, some of the stories we got to listen to, some of the stories we got to innovate on. It's cool, right? Because there's badass people in this industry that are trying to bring a plant to life. Like some of the things that some of these brands come up with, I'm like, holy shit, like that is like creativity at its finest. Like the Winter Fair had some of the most creative activations I've ever seen in my life. Like there was Black Market had like an igloo, like XMG House of Terpenes, we're killing it. Like it's just wild to see. Again, like I mentioned, Tweed, did really well. We had, Hearts come through. So it was Loud Plug, always kills it. So Pure Sun Farms out west. So yeah, it's really wild to see what we get to do. And it's also challenging, man. It's like so challenging, but it's a print magazine, right? Like if you told me I was going to be, running a print magazine when I was 31 in the year 2022, 10 years ago, I'd be like, no way. But it just so happens that a tribe has the ability to be built. And we're trying to turn that magazine from a nice to have into a must have, because it's like the right information will be in there. The credible information will be in there. And it's like, that's why we involve ourselves with trying to help get sampling done and things like that, because we come from like a bipartisan, like, let's just help the industry grow. And those are the rules I've always tried to hold, like whether it was with Lyft or with, Dutchy. It's really just about like, how do we help the whole pie grow? Because if we're all competing for like this little sliver, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like it's just we're not going to hit our potential.
The sampling and the education play in that whole situation is definitely very appealing. Like it sounds like I've had some good discussions about it, and then having you break down on how it actually looks from start to finish. I mean, it's phenomenal, and I hope more people become educated from an episode like this. You know what I mean, as well as their own ability to explore outside the box, because that's what it is a lot of the times, man. The common sense of not being afraid to push the envelope through some of that gray regulation, or where there's room to improve, and then kind of set a new standard. Now, Manitoba,
and just quickly on that, like it's like the rules are written in a way that like you don't like. There's no real there's a lot of room for interpretation. And so what it's about getting everybody from a regulatory perspective to a private perspective on the same context. Oftentimes, like, it's like you're standing over here down on the first floor and someone's standing at like the 8th floor. You're not talking to each other at the same level. So like you're not going to make sense, and things are going to get diluted. The biggest thing is just like agreeing that the notion is around education, public health, economic stimulation, right? And just like getting to those like core factors so that we can progress the economy. Because like Health Canada, AGC, like everyone, AGLC, like they're not bad people. It's like they just have a due diligence to want to protect the things that they're doing and the liabilities and the people that they represent, and like it's just part of the thing. So it's like it's all about just working together and getting the seat at the table. And sometimes I think we fail because there just seems to be a lack of discussion or willingness to drive change management. But oftentimes it's just because like it just hasn't been presented in the right way, or the context hasn't been set in a mutually like viable way.
Yeah, I would agree for sure. And a little bit of like animosity in there, and then that's all it kind of takes, right? And hopefully that's not. But I wanted to shout out there, man. Manitoba has not had a cannabis event since 2018. So as far as yeah, dude. So now that's not now, and I've had this discussion that's legal market. So cannabis legalization 2018, Manitoba held the cannabis and hemp festival, and there has not been another event since. But this past summer, introducing maneuvers like mobile dispensary or advertising cannabis brand sponsorship in sponsorship with. So the room is there for next year. And then, of course, the role that I'm stepping into a little bit on the education portion of things with consumption spaces. And then again, that learning what I've learned that way. I'm just forecasting it, man. Manitoba would be a hot spot summer 2023 for a cannabis event. Definitely. I couldn't see it not going off. Like, but there are more. So a lot of retailers we have are looking at working together in little cahoots, right? Or working with musicians and such, and music events themselves now, and taking that leap. But I could just see, obviously I want to attend a kind event here in Manitoba. So I'm just throwing it out there, dude.
Dude, that's wicked. Yeah, I love Manitoba, man. Like, I love Saskatchewan, love Manitoba, love the model out there. Got a lot of companies that we support out there. Farmer Jane, I love what they're doing out there, and there's a few great organizations, man. AAA as well. So yeah, man, we're down. We're gonna expand to Calgary. We got some things cooking. We got the summer fair and the gala and things like that. But we're gonna be doing a Calgary event as well. There's only 5 on a team. So it's like, we gotta make sure that like we scale appropriately, right? We've all been part of companies that haven't been able to do that, but or efficiently, and like we're really just taking our time, because our big thing is like we just need to make sure we're continuously adding value and solving problems and pushing the envelope. So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I would love to see Alberta get some sampling, if possible. So we'll see.
I've actually, I can throw it in here while we're chatting, because I've explored side hustle, man. I've actually qualified. I was screened in for Calgary firefighter aptitude testing. So from the online application and then meeting the qualifications, so I'm gonna do the aptitude test. Whether I get selected for the position, we'll see or not. But that's something very fucking kind of cool. I was thinking Calgary firefighting. That could be totally dope, dude. And then and then still doing the journalist stuff on the side, definitely.
You, man, the people need to know that you're a human of many, many talents, and you got 4 kids, which is pretty crazy. So bravo, man.
With that being, I mean, the ultimate golden ticket, dude. I landed in an audition, not a sit-in, not a screenplay orientation. There was a open casting call caught my attention about 7 weeks ago maybe, and I kind of got fished into it. And I'm that type of persistent individual where I'm like, hey, you have my attention now. I do have a natural interest in film and these particular things, so I kept plugging at it. And sure as shit, man, I've been extended an audition. And this weekend, I'm actually going to be in a 90-minute virtual audition with a couple of casting directors who actually oversee a couple of pretty popular fucking sitcoms. So it's going to be, who knows, right? But still, it's adding to that. I'm an individual who's dedicated to lifelong learning. I've said it over and over again in my exploration of the cannabis industry. You get to keep a curve in your learn. And then, yes, I am a father, and I've also been a committed citizen to this earth, man. Like, my 43 years, but my introduction with RMR and the Canigma and a number of other players in the industry came from my open willingness to discuss that I was raised in cannabis culture. So my understanding from legacy to legal has been there phenomenally. I've been a correctional officer in the past, and I also have my family's very well known and established in justice. And so, I mean, that shift to legal and holding true to that culture in it, and wanting to carry that through in my life, in my upbringing. You nailed it with what your mother mentioned, man. I do consume less, and I know that it's quality assured. And I'm able to research what effects it does have on me, whether I find them negative or positive, right? Everything is available there to confirm whether or not you want to experience that again. And I think that's the importance that we keep demonstrating through our episodes in that education and the appropriate regulatory affairs, like you mentioned, in public safety, number one. So I appreciate your time here today, Shahbaaz. I'm going to give you the last few minutes to definitely kind of wrap it up. How people can get a hold of you to book events. If somebody's got a hot story in the industry, wanting to get their brand out with you a little more, any of that type of hype information that you can throw right now beyond finding you on Instagram, please share it with us. And I look forward to staying connected with you, man. I like I said, I know there's a fire in the West, and I plan to head out that way as well.
Yeah, man, for sure. And just, thank you for the time. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for respect my region. Joey, Mitch, appreciate y'all. Last thing I'd say is just like 2023, trust is going to be at an all-time low. We're going to start to see lots of consolidation. There's so much opportunity for creation and good partnerships. If you can, figure out ways to kind of work with people and meet them where they are. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I think that there's, always opportunity for, people who are looking to, again, like just create and Canadian knowledge capital is like the biggest thing ever. It's like the biggest export. So I'd encourage, everyone to just like write about their experiences, but what they see on the ground floor in Canada, and listen to this podcast, not only because I'm on it, but listen to what you guys are putting down, because this is global architect shit. You know what I mean? There's no one doing this, really. And so we're setting the playbook, building the playbook. So anyways, that's just my rant, is just like, what you're doing today matters. So keep doing it. If you plan on staying in cannabis, that's all.
Appreciate you, Shahbaaz. Thank you very much,
man.